So today I want to talk about veterans benefits. I've been asked a lot of questions. What truly is available for a veteran upon their death, either financial or what gifts are given to them or things from the government are provided and available for them. We see a lot of information on the news and on commercials, and some of it can lead you astray. We've had people that believe that their funerals are paid in full because they were a veteran, and these things are simply not true. So I want to go down a list, as conclusive of a list as I could gather for you, of what benefits are available to you as a veteran and oftentimes as a veteran's spouse. The first item is the flag. So the funeral home acquires the flag for you. There's a special form they fill in, they take to the post office, they get a flag, bring it back to the funeral home for you as a veteran. That flag is then displayed in one of two ways. It's either folded in a triangle, set in the corner of your casket or next to your urn, or it is draped over the foot end of your casket, or if it's a closed casket, over the whole length of your casket. Nothing is to be set on that flag, either when it's folded or when it's draped over the casket. Nothing is to be set on it. It is a very sacred item when it comes to especially funeral times. We make sure nothing is on that flag. That flag is then presented to your spouse. If your spouse has already preceded you in death, that flag is then presented to your oldest child. If the family would like somebody else to receive this flag, then the oldest child has to essentially give up their position and let the funeral director or the honor guard know who is then going to be receiving. Sometimes we're asked if we can have multiple flags. Can each child, or can the spouse and a parent, sometimes if it's a younger service member, asked if the parents can receive a flag and the spouse or a child. The funeral home can only obtain one flag per veteran. Sometimes though, an honor group, or if it's an active duty death, the government or one of these groups have additional flags and can then provide an additional flag, but the funeral home can only provide one. And then the next item is the presidential certificate. So this is a very simple certificate that the funeral home sends in the paperwork, and you will receive as many copies, as many certificates as you would like, and they'll come in the mail a few weeks after they are applied for. And they thank you for your service members' honor to their country, and then is signed by the president. Number 3 that you can apply for is a headstone. So if your loved one is buried in a private cemetery, and whether you get a private headstone or not, you can apply then for a veteran's headstone. These can also be placed in conjunction then with that private headstone as well. So they come in a variety of shapes and materials. There is an upright white marble or gray granite. Then there is a flat white marble and gray granite. There's also the bronze markers. So those come in either a 2 foot wide, or they come in an 8.5 inch niche marker. What we're often seeing is that bronze marker, the large or the smaller one, are being attached to the back side of the granite headstone that you're privately purchasing. Now the only cost when it comes to those is the attaching or the installation in the ground of those headstones. So that portion is not paid for, just the portion of the stone itself. So there's a few different configurations you can do in terms of seating maybe the flat granite one down into the ground in front of your private headstone, or you can use just this headstone as the primary headstone at the cemetery. So there's a lot of different options there. A national cemetery is the 4th benefit that is available for a veteran, and this one is a huge cost saver, first and foremost, because You do not have to pay then for a grave space, the opening and closing of the grave, the vault company, or the vault itself, and then also the headstone that you will receive at the National Cemetery as well, which is the same as you would get in a private cemetery. They just pay for the installation there at the National Cemetery. So a spouse of the veteran as well, and any dependent children may be buried in that National Cemetery also. Now, when it comes to dependent children, it's a broader term of dependent child than just any children living in your home. So if you have a child that's not married and that's maybe off at college and is 20, 21 years old, they die, they may be eligible to be buried in a national cemetery if you are a veteran. So keep those things in mind. If you have unmarried adult children over the age of 18, there is a small bracket there over the age of 18 that they may fall into that dependent child situation. Some national cemeteries, when it comes to the burials with the spouse, they save a space next to them, but more often than not, they're burying one on top of the other. So the first to die is buried at a greater depth, and then the second burial is then right on top of the first. So that ensures that there is a grave space available for that spouse when the time comes. This also is for cremated remains. There is ground burial for cremated remains at some national cemeteries, but then they're also now installing columbarium niches, so more mausoleum style for cremated remains, where it's, larger outdoor buildings, and so up and down there's spaces for cremated remains to go in. When it comes to national cemeteries, I am often asked about Arlington National Cemetery, where someone will say, "Oh, I want to be buried at Arlington, can I?" So here's a few things about Arlington National Cemetery to know. On average, they do 27 to 30 funerals a day. That's a lot. I often get asked, well, when is it going to fill up? They estimate that in 23 years, they will be at maximum capacity. They are working, of course, on different ways to extend the cemetery out and different things that they could do to allow themselves to be able to give honor to more veterans and their families. At the current time, they have installed some of those new columbariums for cremated remains burials. That is the only way that any honorably discharged veteran can be buried at Arlington. The ground burial is reserved for only decorated veterans, or active duty deaths, or career military. So it would be Purple Heart, Silver Star, Bronze Star, people who have received decorations of those levels. They do recommend that if you want to have someone's cremated remains buried there, that you plan 4 months and ahead in order to have a time slot during the day for their service. They are that busy, which I can truly believe. There are so many veterans that die every day, and what a remarkable place to want to be buried at Arlington. If you've never been, I highly recommend you take a trip just to see it in person. It's amazing. The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and just it's beautiful. It really is. Any national cemetery is beautiful. One thing to note at national cemeteries also is that currently there is a rule that spent shells after the 21 gun salute volley has been done are not able to be given to families. They did have an incident where a grandson took one of the shells and it had not fired, and it later went off and injured him. And so they have gone back and forth on this rule, and currently families are not allowed to take those shells. The fifth item on the benefits is the honor guard at a private cemetery. So if your loved one is going to be buried at a private cemetery, or say you're having a memorial service at the funeral home and you're not going to the cemetery, you can request an honor guard to come do the folding of the flag, the presentation of the flag, and the playing of taps. Those 3 items are essentially promised to every eligible veteran when they die. And so the funeral home applies to the branch of the service that the individual served in. If they were Army Air Corps, then they would apply to the Air Force. The Air Force does like to take care of those veterans. So then they will send 2 to 3 individuals from that branch to the service, wherever it may be. Even if it's at your home and you're having a memorial service without the funeral home present, they will send an honor guard there to do their honors for you with your family members. And they will fold the flag. If it is an urn presentation and the flag's already folded, they will open it up and then refold it following the playing of taps and present it. If you would like to have the firing of the 21-gun salute, the funeral home can then contact local organizations, the VFW, the American Legion. They have contacts for different organizations, and they can request if one can be present for the service. You may not always be able to get this. We are running into a huge depletion of members of these organizations, and a lot of them are having to close their doors because there's not enough people in them to keep them active and to keep them going, and there's not enough people who are donating their time for the firing squads. And so you may not always get that benefit at your graveside service, but we can get the folding of the flag, presentation, and the playing of taps. So just keep that in mind as well. So financially, there are 2 more benefits to talk about. One is a county benefit, and the second is the federal benefit. Now, the county benefit is obviously set within your county. Every county and every state is going to be different. Some have maybe a $50 benefit available, some have a $500 benefit available. It just really depends on each county. And there also may be restrictions or requirements that you have to meet in order to be eligible. Perhaps you had to have served during wartime, or you have to have a reach of financial need. And so there's paperwork the funeral home will help you fill out that you can apply for those benefits, or you can just request the paperwork from your local veterans county organization, and so then you can apply on your own. You do not have to have the funeral home help you with these things. You can apply on your own. You can take care of it on your own. Federally, there are also some benefits available to some veterans. If you are disabled or you are a career veteran, you can apply for some federal benefits. There is a federal benefit form, and you turn that in with a copy of the death certificate, the discharge paper, and some other things that are listed right on there very clearly. So that's a good thing about all these forms, is they very clearly typically spell out what you need to send in, what you need to fill out, and where it needs to go. Now, federal forms also are filled out if someone dies in a veterans facility, in a VA home. Then they are eligible for some other benefits, some other reimbursements for transportation, so like the removal charge and the hearse charge and things like that. So I always say err on sending rather than not sending. Send it in. You may be surprised at a benefit that you received that you didn't realize you were eligible for. Well, that your family didn't realize you were eligible for. So always fill it out, send it in, and you may be surprised that there is a financial benefit available to you. Some states offer free death certificates for the family of a veteran and for even a veteran's spouse. Like Michigan gives 1 free death certificate for each family. Iowa and New Jersey also give 1. Tennessee gives 3. And Pennsylvania, which is awesome, give 10 free death certificates to a veteran's family, which is amazing. It's such a financial save for a family for that many death certificates. Now, Minnesota, I found, gives a free urn, not the state of Minnesota, but there's an organization that gives a free urn to every veteran's family when you apply for it, if you need an urn, obviously. So that is another great benefit that is out there. One main factor in all of these benefits is that you have an eligible copy of your DD-214, which is our discharge papers. Now, you need that to show that you were honorably discharged and that you served in the branch of service that you were in. And so that form is what is needed to acquire any of these benefits. Sometimes we can use your wall certificate or your pocket card that you were given to get the paperwork started, and then with that we can request a copy of your discharge paper. But the wall certificate at least gives us your service number and the branch of service so that we can get the paperwork going, and we can start at least getting the honor guard set up and getting the flag and so forth. Now, if you don't have a copy of your DD-214, our first stop is going to be going to the National Archives, or you can do this while you're still living to acquire a copy for yourself. One problem with the National Archives is that in 1973 they had a huge fire and they lost a large number of their files. About 80% of the Army files and 75% of the Air Force files were lost, completely gone. And those were the records before about 1960-65. So you may run into the problem that they don't have a record of your file. So if you find that that is the case and National Archives can't be of assistance to you, then you can also go to your county clerk. When veterans returned home from service, they were instructed to go put their discharge paper on file with the county clerk. Many did not do this, but when we're working with a family and the family does not have a copy of their discharge paper, that is also one of the first places we will contact just to see if they do have a copy of the discharge paper on file with them. It's always a good moment when we can get it easily from the county clerk's office. We'll also check with the local VFW and the American Legion. If they were ever parts of those organizations, they may have a copy on file with them. If the veteran ever received medical care from a VA facility, then we know that they're a veteran because it's been authorized at some point through there, but they will also then hopefully have a copy of the discharge on file. Kind of our last, we also go to the state level, and sometimes at the state level there is one on file, and if not, then at the state level or at the national level, they may be able to help us get a letter that at least states, yes, we know that this person was a veteran, and we are authorizing the benefits to be given to them for burial because we are authorizing that, yes, they are an honorably discharged veteran. So sometimes that's kind of the last stop. If we can't get the official discharge paper, we can get this letter from National Archives or from the state level that says, go ahead with the benefits. Here is what we know, and we are able to at least acquire benefits for the veterans. There's been one time only that we could not get anything that showed this person was a veteran, that they were honorably discharged at all. And it was kind of hard because the family insisted, but we couldn't help them. And so luckily it was a pre-arrangement situation, so we still have time. There is still time to try to get this resolved so that when this gentleman dies, we're able to give him the honor that he deserves as a veteran. You may also find that at individual funeral homes, there are things offered for veterans, whether it's a veteran's discount, a veteran's package, a flag case, a bookmark, a candle, just some sort of benefit that is given to a veteran from the funeral home and for a veteran's spouse. So always ask when you go in to make funeral arrangements if there is a veteran's benefit that they offer. So I hope this answers your questions about veterans benefits and things that are available. Please, by all means, if you know of any other benefits I haven't mentioned, please pass those on to me so I could add them to my list and share them in a future video. If you have questions about any of these benefits, please post them below. Private message them to me if you need to. Email that to me. My email is right at the tag end of the video. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys on the next video. Bye.